September 5th, 2018 meeting of the Rotary Club of Sebastopol Sunrise. Hear ye, hear ye. So Charlie was to do the pledge, but I'm going to ask Michael Cook to do the pledge this morning because we're without the benefit of Charlie.
All right, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Michael. So greet your neighbors.
That's right. Absolutely. I guess I'm not using it.
Right. Okay, Joe, let's do this. So, do we have a mic? Do we have a mic? A secondary mic. Where's our secondary mic?
There's a mic.
All right, I'm putting this mic on this table here for our guest, Judge Bertoli, because we have a treat. We not only have a country singer in the house, but we have, arguably, we'll see how this goes, Folsom Prison Blues. Karaoke.
I hear the train coming, it's rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, time keeps dragging on.
Just coming through for the
But that train keeps rolling on down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear the whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll play it, Luther.
So, you know, Your Honor, Jim,
Yes?
it's very interesting. That recording actually is 11 bars in that first verse, and it kicks over to the second verse. So you're expecting a 12th bar?
They lost a bar.
Darlene, Brazil, and Joe are mighty neat things. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Nancy and Louie are greeters. And thought du jour, Bruce.
I have several thoughts planned for this morning, but I'd like us all to take a moment in this day of mourning for 41, as his funeral is about ready to start. And remember how, through his leadership, we maintained some civility in government. And I would like all of us to keep that in mind as we go about our day-to-day living. And I'd like a moment of silence for George Herbert Walker Bush. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Visiting Rotarians? None. Welcome guests. We have some guests. I know we have some excellent guests. Louie.
Well, on a special day today, we have our always guest, our foreign exchange student, Madeleine. With a little bit more, is going to go out.
A little bit more on Madeleine in just a moment.
And also, I have my guest, Scott Benstock, dentist in town. He keeps teeth in my head, which is a big task for him to do. But we've been around for quite a while. At one point, I taught his daughter when I was teaching.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Welcome. Who else? I know we've got.
Yes, I will
A
be
dignitary.
introducing later
our speaker, who is Judge Jim Bertoli.
Welcome. I'm not entirely sure. I get used to calling judges Your Honor. Sir.
Well, good for you.
Your Honor.
Better do it here.
So, Madeline, Louis, can you help us with this? It's Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas, qu'est-ce que c'est? Sinterklaas. It's what?
So, this is kind of an interesting thing in Holland only. For most children in the Netherlands, the most important day during December is the 5th of December, when Sinterklaas, St. Nicholas, brings them presents. St. Nicholas Day is on the 6th of December, but in the Netherlands, the major celebrations are held on the 5th, which is the Saint's Eve. The name Santa Claus, of course, comes from Sinterklaas. It all starts on the 2nd day of November, which is the first Saturday after the 11th, when Sinterklaas travels to a town or city in the Netherlands. Dutch tradition says that St. Nicholas lives in Madrid, Spain, and every year he chooses a different harbor to arrive in Holland. So as many children as possible get a chance to see him. Sinterklaas travels with his servants called Zwartepet and Piet, Black Peters. When Sinterklaas and the Black Peters come ashore from a steamboat, all of the local church bells ring in celebration. Sinterklaas, dressed in his red robes, leads the procession through the town, riding a white horse. Every town in the Netherlands has a few Sinterklaas helpers, dressed the same as Sinterklaas, who helps give the presents out. And sometimes you might see more than one of the Zwartepet with Sinterklaas. Children are told that the Zwartepet keep a record of all the things they've done, good things they've done during the year, in a big book. Good children will get presents, the bad children will be put in a sack, and the Zwartepet will take them back to Spain for a year to teach them how to behave. Of course, there's a historical link between Holland and Spain.
Yes, indeed.
World Ocean. Remember the World History. On the evening that Sinterklaas arrives in the Netherlands, the children leave out a shoe by the fireplace, or sometimes a windowsill, and sing the Sinterklaas song. They hope that he will come during the night with some presents. They also believe they will have to leave some hay and carrots in their shoes for Sinterklaas's horse. They will be left some sweets or small presents. And they're told during the night that he rides on the roofs of the stores, and that the Zwartepet will then climb down the chimney or through a window with presents and candy in his shoes. So,
How about that?
Now,
Now.
celebrate. Wait, there's more.
Now.
So, since we have our resident here, and even though she thinks it's sort of for
For kids, Sinterloop.
we have a little gift for you.
Oh. There you go.
And also there's I researched there's a little treat that's called Peppernutte, right?
Yeah.
Well, the closest I get was a German thing called Pfeffernusse, which is the pepper nuts too. So here's a couple of those for you.
Oh, that's really nice.
So you must have been good.
Yeah.
Well, at least the past 4 months. Go ahead. Yeah, open it now.
Gonna find out. It's not as nice.
Don't be neat. Just pretend you're 6 years old again.
Yeah, that was over top.
Open it up.
Oh, this is so nice. This is what my parents always do.
Another box.
This was always
We do our research.
Yeah.
Still alive, sorry. Oh, another one.
Oh dear! You outdid yourself, Louie.
It'll take a while.
As they wait with bated breath.
Maybe the ones that beat the pole.
I had pity on everybody because this is a meeting with limited length.
Aha!
Aha!
Another package.
Ah! What is that? Make America Great?
All right.
It's out of Sebastopol. That's a worthy. Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, it's Madeline's birthday on Friday. Woo-hoo!
11/17.
Yeah, well, we'll go right past that. Bill! Happy birthday, Madeline. We're delighted to have you. And Bill, what's going on here? Very quickly.
There I'm with my granddaughter Lucy, and Lucy joined Girls on the Run. For those of you not familiar with that program, Girls on the Run is for like 3rd and 4th grade girls, and they use running as sort of a metaphor for life. You never make progress unless you keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving. But during the program, they talk about anti-bullying and both not being bullied and not bullying someone else. They talk about self-confidence. They use physical running to build up their confidence. You can do it. And then at the end of it, all of the girls in the program, it's a 6-week-long program, they all run a 5K. And so everyone has to have a running partner. So I was Lucy's running partner. And she had, I don't know if you can see where my hand is on her shoulder, she had her ponytail painted pink. And so she talked me into having my beard painted pink to go with it. So we ran together the whole way. Great deal. While I'm up, I'm going to pay a fine anyway, so I might as well.
You anticipate my thought.
At some point, I lost a hat like this. This is Jim's, but I just wanted to show you this style. Oh my gosh, you got a big head. Anyway, it's sort of greenish brown plaid, and it has. I bought it in Ireland, and I set it down someplace. I went looking for it this morning, and I also found my Boston hat in the closet over here. And then 5 minutes later, someone handed me my.
That's from the Beer Fest.
Yeah, that's from the Beer Fest. So I'm losing stuff all over the place, but if anybody finds a little newsy hat, please let me know. And it says made in Ireland on it. Maybe you got a little shamrock on the inside or something.
Sentimental value all the way around, and a slim $20 bill for your thoughts and concerns, and
an additional $20 for Paul Harris in honor of Lucy.
there you go. There you go. Okay, so Michael, we have a very important part of our meeting. This is a business meeting. And we're all delighted to announce our board for next year and the passing of the torch. Michael, take it away.
All right. Good morning. Along about September every year, a nominating committee forms to invite people to join the board of directors of our club. And the committee is made up of the 5 most recent past presidents who are available, still members of the club and all. So this year, that consisted of Bill Sauber. Would you stand, please? Acknowledgement. Jerry Machelon was part of that committee. Linda Sinkay, here. And Scott Hensey. To me. So this was your committee. Thank you, gentlemen. So forthwith, I'll reveal what the nominating committee did. We looked for a balance of people, some new to the club, newer, and some experienced members. as you'll soon see. So the officers will be, your president will be Lori. Would you come up, Lori, please? Immediate past president will be Matt, so you can
I'll
walk
be
over
back.
there. The treasurer will be Barbara Barney.
All right, Barbara.
Secretary, Michael Phelps, has agreed to serve again. And in no particular order, here's the rest of the members of the board. Kathy Rogers. Jerry Michelin. Linda Sinkay will be there.
Indeed, Linda, yes.
Lou Hopfer. Judy Rice will join him, but she's recuperating from an operation.
Oh, it's not.
Following in.
Who's the next one? After Judy, it's who, like, rounds it out.
He hasn't said
I didn't say yet. So. Aside from interrupting,
$10.
I was on a roll here. So Natalie McNamara, please come up.
Hey, Dolly.
Rob McCauley
Hey, Rod.
and Bill Schlidius.
There you go. There you go.
And that's not everybody, that's not everybody, so hang on. Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please.
Your president nominee for the year following Lori will be Barbara Barney. All right. So now we convene the annual member. Michael?
I move unanimous consent for the slate.
Almost there, just a moment.
Almost there, Michael. That's a
You will
$10
be first in
fine.
line to do that honor. So we now begin the annual membership meeting where you have an opportunity to vote on this august group. It's the only agenda item, so not a long meeting. So Michael?
Now, I changed my mind.
All right, you get up here then.
Little draft of, right. Okay, so great, somebody moved to accept this roster of nominees, but wait, when do we open the floor to nominations? You also have the opportunity to intervene and nominate someone. But I don't
Any other
hear it.
nominations?
Oh, there's Bruce.
Bruce?
I move the nominations be closed.
Wait for a second. All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Now we vote on the roster of nominees. So please, let's have a motion to approve the nominees. Did you change your mind?
I move unanimous consent.
And Dan seconds? We'll take that, right? We transform this into, okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Great.
There you have it.
Yay!
Yay!
For a photo op, you guys.
You want a photo op here, or?
And I want to say thank you to the nomination team for giving me a spectacular board. We're going to rock it. Like always.
Okay. Good job, Michael. Thank you very much. Rod, go ahead. We've got, go ahead, Rod.
Just a reminder, this is Blue
Microphone.
Next Wednesday, this Wednesday, next Wednesday, and the Wednesday after that, perhaps, are Blue Wednesdays. Your donation to the foundation, the Rotary Foundation, make your checks, I got pens, will be doubled. So such a deal, and especially if you're close to your next Paul Harris. So just come to me or Barbara with your check, with a signature, and you know, $100, $200, be double.
Thank you, Rod. So I know, Jim, it's your birthday on the Friday, right? Do you have any special plans?
Yeah, I'm going to go down and see the Bronx Tale musical in San Francisco.
Oh.
And then this weekend, we're going up to Reno for the weekend.
What's the name of the play?
The Bronx, for Bronx Tale.
Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
I guess it's about the Bronx.
No, Bronx. Bronx. New York. Yeah, New York.
That's what I thought. That sounds pretty good.
I forgot the guy's name, but there's a fellow that was, he always played the bad guy in a lot of gangster movies.
Yeah.
Well, then he had a one-man show about his growing up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Well, now they made it into a musical.
Well, great. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I'll bring back the CD.
So announcements, first Friday at Scott's Place, RSVP, please. It'll be a lot of fun. This was something interesting. December 14th, Vanley High School will have a business partnership breakfast in the library at 7:30. And they're asking all business people who are interested in supporting Annalee to come by and have breakfast with them. December 25th is our holiday dinner. And the 23rd is Rites of Spring. Kathy, can you say a few things about the holiday dinner?
I'll reach out to everybody. Turkeys. So you can either do a donation or you can provide turkeys. So as we always do. And I know who's supported the turkeys in the past, so I'll just reach out to see if you're going to do that again. And we have our flyers, so we can blitz Sebastopol, definitely Grayton, and so there's a box of flyers, so if you want to take, 10 or 15 and pass them out, hang them up, we'll start seeing them on all the poles. Those are waterproof, which I really like. So it's turkey time, coat time. We have lots of coats, and we know that you like to bring coats and blankets. Does someone have a spot that we could keep coats and blankets? Because our storeroom is already stuffed with coats, if anybody.
I can handle that.
All right, so if people do want to bring some, then PJ will take care of it.
got a big mailbox, as I remember.
Cool.
Totally huge.
So yeah, I think
all the
that's
junk
about
mail.
it. So you'll be able to go on the website to pay for your turkeys like you did last year. Barbara will keep track of it. We sort of work together on that. And or if you want to bring turkeys, that's great. Or a ham. Some of you like to do the hams. So all right. Any questions? Any? Natalie?
Where's that box of flyers?
On the table with the eggs.
With the egg. Okay, thank you.
There we go. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael, you want to say a thing or two about rights? I know you have a meeting queued up.
Yes, so we have a couple of ideas to discuss, and the next meeting will be at Lori Darling's office next Thursday, the 13th, 5:30 p.m. We'd love to have people who got the bandwidth to think a little bit about our March 23rd events. And we'll be announcing a couple of things right after that. So that will be a big step forward for us.
Thank you very much, Michael. And rumor has it that Brian, you won a raffle. What? Tell us a little bit about that.
Natalie.
It was a lot of work. It wasn't just a raffle.
Yeah. So what did you win? What was it, first of all?
So it was a chili cook-off, a fundraiser for the living room, and I figured it's just such a great cause. I will cook, and I am not a cook, so I just searched real quickly. My cooking partner he's vegan, and I like to try to be vegan, but we went for a vegan recipe, and I just got the best possible one on the internet, and went all out to cook it. I didn't change anything. I just did it right to the recipe, really boring. And we beat everybody, all the meat guys, everybody, no matter how good they cook.
Is Michael there?
And, yeah, so it was pretty exciting, got a little trophy and everything, but it was for a great cause, the living room.
All right.
And I got another announcement. Bill and I have been working on First Friday. This is a double joint First Friday if it works out. So we're just trying to confirm with the other club.
On January 4th.
It's January, yeah. So it's
Okay.
confirmed, yeah, okay. So it's double joint, and at the events, I met with the 2030 Club, and they would like to join our joint club with meeting with the other club.
Where are we having that
this will be at Woodford. So Woodford is going to close up. It's a great venue. They have one or two really good beers. You got to get used to the sour for the rest of them, but it's a good place, and we're going to staff up and really support it.
Awesome, Brian, $15. I didn't never quite get that right, but anyway. Rotary Fire Relief, keep the victims in mind. Remember, I think we sent this email around for where you can donate. You can always go to the Paradise Rotary Club website and click through to make your donations. Continues to be a very important cause. Very quickly here, I just want to tip my hat to judges and juries and court personnel around the country. It's very important that we have these, and it's something that a lot of us don't understand until we've served on a jury, how important it is for individuals to be involved in this process. It's a critical part of our third branch of our government, and as we acknowledge under our Constitution, we recognize the worthiness of all useful occupations, and in this area of the law, it's critically important. So without further ado, I think we have Marty to announce our speaker. Thank you, Judge, for coming, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, President Matt. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our programs today. Jimmy Bertoli grew up in Sebastopol. I had the pleasure for many, many years of working with his dad, Bert Bertoli, who was the vice principal at Anley, and then went out to Elmolino for a period of time. This wonderful man, wonderful family. Jimmy and his buddies, who are a couple of attorneys, took my rolling chair out of my office and hid it for about 2 weeks at school. He was one of my officers, one of my student body officers, and they pulled the joke on him. Boleto takes my wiper blades and Jimmy takes my chair. So there you go. I had the privilege of working with his dad and some attorneys when Jimmy first started his campaign to run for judge. And of course he was elected and has been re-elected since then. We're very lucky to have someone like Jimmy sitting on the bench. Plus, he has been the voice of the Anley Tiger for football games for 25 years. How many years? 40?
When I graduated, 1978, my first year. Wow.
There you go. So, with that, he also has some other talents, which is the lead singer of his band Courting Disaster, which he'll talk about, I'm sure, as well as some of the other things. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce my friend, Judge James Bertoli.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marty. We kind of made a habit when I was a student at Anley of tormenting our student government advisor, Marty Webb. And in great Marty Webb spirit, he got cranked up and then he laughed about it. So, it's, as Marty says, Sebastopol native, and it's really kind of interesting standing here in this building because it's like, this is kind of a center point for me, because at one point I lived 2 doors up from here on Wallace Street, would walk to my job as a bagger at Safeway, and then be at Anley. So it's always nice to be around here because this is my home and it always will be my home, despite the fact that I live up in Windsor now with my lovely wife, Noelle. What I'm hoping to talk to you about today, and it kind of struck me when Bruce was talking about the civility that existed when HW was president, regardless of which side of the aisle you were on. That was when we had a at least we had an ability to discuss things with each other. And unfortunately, a lot of that has flowed into the operation, not so much the operation, but the outside view of the judiciary. And what I want to talk to you about today is the concerns that we in the judiciary have regarding the removal of judges from office and the efforts to remove judges based on the fact that they may have to make decisions that are unpopular. Because that is eroding the very foundation of not just our judicial system, but our entire governmental system. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Of course, went to Annalee High School, Santa Rosa Junior College, UC Davis, where I got my degree in economics, law school at University of San Francisco. And I practiced law for 14 years, mainly in two areas, a very odd combination. I did public sector labor law, representing teachers, coming by that somewhat naturally with my father in education and growing up around educators. And then I also did family law, which is my current assignment on the bench. And actually, for about 12 of the years that I've been on the bench, I have done family law. And quite frankly, as I'm on the latter quarter of my career, I'm hoping that that's just where I'll stay, because it actually, number one, a lot of people don't want to do it. Number two, for some weird reason, I enjoy doing it. The other thing, and as Marty mentioned, and you guys have your first Friday thing on January 4th. Court and Disaster will be playing at the Twin Oaks Tavern that evening, starting at 8:30. So, come on and check us out. Get your twang on, as it were. But actually, we've had this band for about 8 years now, which is made up of legal professionals and, as I say, a couple of civilians, a judge, court clerk, the wife of an attorney and 3 other attorneys, plus the folks that were fortunate enough to stay out of the legal profession. And we just have a blast with it. We sure as hell don't make any money with it, but we have a lot of fun and play the fairs and play in bars and just have a good time. But getting back to my topic, I have had the privilege, since I was elected to the bench in 2000 and took the bench in January of 2001, to serve on the California Judges Association Judicial Elections Committee. Excuse me. And I'm, in fact, the current chair, starting my third consecutive year as chair, and I think it's my 5th year of chairing this statewide committee that focuses on judicial elections. And this is really where I kind of want to focus my discussion about quite frankly, the assault on judicial independence that has really manifested itself most recently in the removal of Judge Aaron Persky down in Santa Clara County. Talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the historical, thank you very much, Larry. Talk about the historical background of judicial removal, how judges are removed, because there's a number of different avenues that might take place. The Judicial Elections Committee that we have with the California Judges Association, we do such things as assist judges who are challenged in elections. I've actually helped edit the last, I want to say 6 versions of the Judicial Elections Handbook that we provide for judges to give them some guidance about what their obligations are when you run, because unlike a lot of other positions, we have some very strict guidelines that we have to follow, because we have a very detailed list of ethical canons that we are required to follow. And because of those restrictions, there's a lot of things on in elections that maybe other candidates for city council, board of supervisors, state assembly, governor, whatever it might be, don't have to follow. One of the biggest ones, and this is really going to play a role when I get into the discussion about the Persky situation, one of the things is we can't comment on active cases. And when we talk about not commenting on active cases, that means any active case. Not just cases that are in front of me or in front of candidate X. I can't comment about the landlord-tenant dispute that's taking place in Omaha, Nebraska, that's current. I am not allowed to do that. Not until a case has become absolutely final, all appeals have been exhausted, etc., can I comment on it. So for example, like death penalty cases, I mean, those appeals go on forever and ever. So we can't comment on the substance of that case. And this is a really important aspect to understand when a judge is either challenged by another candidate or a judge is subject to recall, such as Aaron Persky was in this most recent election. I'm also a member of a recently formed group called the Judicial Fairness Coalition, which is made up of both current and retired judges, legal educators, various bar association representatives throughout the state, where we are seeking to form a group to help educate people about the judge's role in both the courts and in the community. Because especially getting back to another one of those restrictions, I'm restricted on a lot of things that I can do within the community. For example, I sit on a board for what was originally called the 4-H Foundation of Sonoma County, which is now the Youth and Ag Leadership Foundation of Sonoma County. For example, I can't be identified on the letterhead as a judge because that's using the prestige of my office to help forward the interests of the foundation. I cannot actively participate in fundraising for the foundation because they don't want judges shaking down people who's basically saying, hey, I'm involved in this organization here, and they'd really like a little help. Get that? Now,
Lock him up.
Yeah,
Guilty.
now, for some of my Italian brethren, that's the way it works, That's how we grease the skids here. But we're not allowed to do that as judges. So, with these various restrictions, we want the public to know what our role is. How do we function within our community? And how can we make sure that people understand, and I don't want to say this sounding whiny or anything like that, but some of the difficulties that we encounter in our job from day to day. Because I can tell you, there's an aspect of this job that with the things that come in front of you, especially in family law, that I often say, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. Because you just encounter some unbelievable situations, especially in family law, with what happens with families. And I think the even more difficult assignment I had, and this was 4 years ago, was doing 2 years of what's called juvenile dependency, where that's where I had to make decisions literally every day, and that means Saturday and Sunday too, about taking kids away from their family. And so there are these difficulties, and really because of the isolation that we deal with in this job, because again, we can't go out and be a part of a fundraising effort, and be part of your community, and be as much of a communication with the public as maybe some others, you get very isolated. And a lot of times, you have to internalize it. There's not a lot of people you can talk with. You've got your colleagues, and that's about it. And with our job, many times, our encounters with our colleagues, you know, Marty, when you were at the school, you saw everybody you worked with. I may, with three other judges on my floor, and their offices are within walking distance to that tree, I may go a week without seeing them, just because that's how isolated we are. We're in either our courtroom or we're in our chambers working on stuff, and you just don't have that collegial interaction that you might have in a different workplace. So when we get a chance to come out here and talk to people like this and tell a little bit about our jobs, thank you for the therapy. I appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about how judges obtain their office, very briefly. The judges at the Superior Court level can basically come onto the job in two different ways. One is the method that I undertook, and that was running for the position when there was a vacancy. Rarely although this is going to be another thing to talk about, until recently, rarely was a judge challenged once they had been elected, or in the other fashion, when it's midterm, when a vacancy arises, the governor has an opportunity to appoint for that position. As Superior Court judges, though, we come up for re-election every 6 years. And so, in fact, I just came up for re-election in November. You did not see my name on the ballot, though, because judges are the only elected position, that if you have no challenger, you don't appear on the ballot. Any other thing, you have to appear on the ballot. But because of the unique qualifications that we have to have, such as being a member in good standing of the bar, practicing for 10 years and things like that, you cannot just go in and write in Marty Webb's name to be judge, although he does have it in his genetics. And then with appellate court judges in California and Supreme Court justices in California, those are all by appointment. They are for 12-year terms, and they have what's called a retention election, where it's thumbs up or thumbs down. You just vote, shall so-and-so be retained or not retained. There are a whole bunch of people that were up this year, in fact. And so that's the difference in that position. And in fact, if those of you hearken back to the Rose Bird days, that's how she lost her position, was she did not win her retention election along with the other three judges or justices. The appointment process is a very lengthy process. You put out an application, you get letters, there's interviews. I mean, I've had to do them over the phone with what's called the Jenny Commission, the Judicial Election or Judicial Nominations Evaluation Committee. So getting back to the elections, though, like I went through, where I originally, there were 5 of us who ran, and then I had a runoff, and et cetera, et cetera. Again, there's rare challenges, but this year, for the first time, we saw, and usually we'll see 2 or 3 challenges statewide in the 2-year cycle. This year we had 18. Of those, 17 of the judges were re-elected. The one who lost was a judge down in San Diego whose last name was Creep. And quite frankly, Judge Creep kind of lived up to his name. And he was censured. He was only on the bench for 1 term. And I think he was censured 3 times by the Commission on Judicial Performance for terribly sexist comments right on the bench, on the record. I'm trying to remember a couple other things, but none of it was good. So he he kind of deservedly lost his position. But one of the most disturbing challenges actually arose just down in San Francisco County, where 3 sitting judges, 4 sitting judges, all Democrats, were challenged by 4 members of the Public Defender's Office, and their whole basis for challenging them was that these 4 Democrat judges were appointed by a Republican governor. And so that was their basis for challenging them. And this is one of the things that we are really concerned about at the statewide level in the California Judges Association, is the fact that this nonpartisan position has suddenly evolved to the point where people actually feel like they can challenge you on a partisan basis. I mean, you can look at the records. I'm a registered Democrat. I mean, who isn't in Sonoma County practically, except maybe Marty, I don't know. But when that kind of politics gets involved in our judicial system, there has to be a great deal of concern. Because really, you know, ideally, and true, this is ideal, you're looking for a person who can be fair, who has legal knowledge, who has a good temperament that can be conveyed on the bench. Pardon me. So, when we talk about election challenges, that gives, you know, kind of this segue into how do we get judges out of office if they're not voted out of office? And there's really 4 ways. One is when the California or the Commission on Judicial Performance removes a judge for ethical reasons. It can go anywhere from a private admonishment all the way to being removed from their position. There was a judge in Napa County who basically took an early retirement because he was going to lose his job because he had pocketed a rather expensive business card holder at an event in San Francisco that I was actually at. And so he was being brought up before the commission, and he could read the tea leaves, so he retired. Secondly is you can be impeached by the state senate. Thirdly is what's called a concurrent resolution, where the Senate and the Assembly, by a 2/3 vote, votes to remove you. And then thirdly is a recall by the voters. Recall has only been used twice in California to remove a judge. And actually, until this year, in 2018, when Aaron Persky was removed, every impeachment or recall has been based upon some sort of corruption or misconduct on the part of the judge. There was a judge in Marin County in 1862 who was the first one to be impeached, and his impeachment was based upon, those of you who know your California history, the duel between David Terry, the retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and Senator Broderick. They got in a fight over slavery. They have a duel. Terry kills Broderick. He's brought to trial in Marin County because of a change of venue. And Judge Hardy and the district attorney conspire to prevent the trial basically from going forward by kind of ramrodding the trial through while they were waiting for a witness to arrive that was the key witness to the case, so the jury had no evidence and the person's acquitted. So he's impeached for that. A second one was, and surprisingly they both have the same last name, James Hardy in Marin, Carlos Hardy in Los Angeles. He was impeached but acquitted for practicing law while he was a judge. Now that may sound kind of silly, but we are not allowed to practice law. We can't give legal advice. We can't hang out our shingle, as it were. So he was the other impeachment. Then in 1932, until this year, the only other recall was the recall of 3 judges in LA County who were basically funneling business through the probate courts to their friends and getting kickbacks, and then also approving exorbitant fees for these people. So they were making money hand over fist. They were impeached, or excuse me, recalled. Finally, the most recent recall was in 2018 of Aaron Persky. The case was somewhat infamous, where a swimmer on the Stanford varsity team had raped a passed out woman. And Judge Persky sentenced him to 6 months in jail and 3 years probation. Now, one of the interesting things to understand is that when we as judges get a criminal case in front of us, especially something as serious as that matter is referred to the probation department for what's called a sentencing report. And that sentencing report will give a recommended sentence to the judge. Judge Persky referred this to the probation department, followed the recommendation of probation. This was met by a witness statement or a victim statement that was very, very compelling. And the victim, she wrote to the court saying, and I'd like to get this, I want to get her statement correct. Pardon me while I set down the microphone.
You said 2018.
She said she was upset with the judge for giving Turner a soft timeout and making a mockery of the seriousness of the assault. Seriousness of rape has to be communicated clearly, and we should not create a culture that suggests we learn that rape is wrong through trial and error. The consequences of sexual assault needs to be severe enough that people feel enough fear to exercise good judgment, even if they're drunk, and severe enough to be preventative. This became viral, and a recall petition was taken out, and Persky lost handily. 61% of the electorate in Santa Clara County removed him. But I would submit to you that whether you find Persky's decision to be outrageous or within the law, it is not a thing that we remove judges over in the middle of their term. This is something that the electorate can speak out on in a re-election, but a judge following the law should not be punished for following the law. That is our job. Aaron Persky followed all the legal steps that was required of his job. He may have made a decision that many people disagree with. I will submit that that is entirely appropriate to disagree with that decision. I have my own views about it. I wish I could tell you exactly what they are, but I am barred from doing so right now because there are still appeals going on in that case. But this is not the way we deal with situations. And when we start politicizing our position, we run into a very serious problem. The Brennan Center, which is a think tank dealing with legal issues, has found through studies of 15 years of sentencing a direct correlation between the severity of the sentence and the more closely that judge becomes to re-election. The closer you are to re-election, the more severe sentence you are likely to get. So make sure if you get in trouble, find a judge who's not going to be up for re-election for 6 or 7 years. I will close with this because I know we are running out of time. I don't know what the solution is to this. Do we do something like federal courts and have lifetime appointments and take this out of the hands of the electorate? I don't think that's right. And that especially comes from somebody who was elected to their position. Do we do retention elections like the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal? It still puts the choice in the hands of the governor, and it takes away the opportunity of the people to pick their judge. Do we, for example, one of the things being proposed is a judge can only be recalled if they've committed misconduct in violation of our ethical canons or committed a crime. I think that may be the most reasonable solution, but I don't know if it works. So there's no easy answer to this problem, but those of us who believe in an independent judiciary, for the people of our state, we have a great concern that popular opinion, whether that popular opinion is right or wrong and not the rule of law, governs our society. I will quote Rose Bird. She said, "The judiciary must not take on the coloration of whatever may be popular at the moment. We are the guardians of rights, and we have to tell people things they often don't want to hear." We are in a legal profession that always cautions about staying away from that slippery slope. And, you know, if we let him walk on the parking ticket, anarchy will prevail. But it's an entirely different situation when the foundation of our Constitution, that the fundamental role of an independent judge is usurped by popular will, even when that judge acted within the law. Ruling by popular opinion can send society down a very dangerous path. Just ask our old friend Jim Crow. So, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your attention. I'd be happy to field a few questions. I know we're kind of up against it. Yes.
Also, a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you, Your Honor. Would you be available for a couple of questions?
Yes. Yeah, I don't have to be here bench till 9:30. So. Yeah.
Make them wait like I have to wait.
You know what? They've never been able to start court without me.
I wonder why that is.
How this can happen across the country. Not all states allow recalls, and I know that the state of Washington, you have to go to court to show cause before you can put a recall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This isn't possible in all states, right?
Yeah, no, in fact, one of the things that the Brennan Center is proposing is that there be a uniform system, whatever it might be ultimately decided upon, for all states. And I think that's how you deal with it. But I think I didn't know about that, and that's very interesting to hear. I'll be talking with my committee members about it. Yes?
Oh, thank you very much for that wonderful overview of your job.
Thank you.
Very interesting. So just on the social emotional side,
Yeah.
back to the beginning.
I can hear you.
Everyone hear you?
And I've only got one good ear, so.
Is there anything barring judges from starting an association where you guys can take a retreat somewhere or be together? Because you said, well, I don't even see my,
You know, we always try and have at least 2 off-site meetings a year. We deal with business for a while and then just kind of socialize.
Yeah.
Golf, I think I'm the only golf, no, there's 2 of us who golf in our own. But yeah.
On a national, or is it all just very?
You know, we do have statewide meetings often, and fortunately it gives us a little bit of a chance to confab. And I'm happy to say I've got some good relationships with judges outside of the county on strictly a social basis. So, you know, it's somebody we can commiserate with at times.
So you're not barred from it?
No, not at all. Yes?
All right. No, go ahead.
One question.
There you go.
You know, Judge Persky, that's the one that got.
Aaron Persky.
Yeah. So maybe it's a sign of the times, because if we saw statistics possibly, you know, women that killed their husbands, you know, they go to jail for life kind of thing. I don't really know what the statistics statistics are on women raping men, but maybe it's just a sign that we want a little more equality.
And I think accountability too. I don't disagree with that at all.
So it's just sort of a sign, you know, like, okay, hey, if you're gonna rape someone, you don't just get a, you know, a $50 fine.
Yeah, no. Not at all. Matt?
Your Honor, thanks again for it.
Thank you, everyone.
And I am going to give you this as a speaker's gift, so
Thank you.
to help you on your bench, I'm sure you've got
Oh,
plenty
yes.
of notes. And
Oh,
I'm
my
going to
God,
ask you
yes.
to do one thing for us, and that is to select a raffle ticket and read it aloud to all these expectant.
All right, here we go. The winner is,
Last three numbers with
last three numbers, 3, 7, 4.
Not me.
Oh, Mark! Oh, thank you very much, Your Honor.
Yeah, there we go.
So, Mark, let's see what we got. Now I can't find my card. So, the winning card today is an ace of diamonds. An ace of diamonds. See? So, go. There. Well, you know. Hey, I want to thank Rod for this consolation prize. Rod, it was you, right? And I think we have a joke from Helene. A Cherie. Oh, we need a mic over there for.
Okay, here's time for a blonde joke. I'm the only one that does blonde jokes because a man was determined to prove the idea that blondes being dumb was all wrong. So he got 80,000 blondes into a stadium and then he selected one of them to come up on a stage. He told the audience that he would ask the blonde a question and show that she was right. So he asked the blonde, when you add 17 and 3, how much do you get? And she replied, 22. And the entire audience let out a loud groan. They shouted, give her another chance, give her another chance. So he said, thinking, well, he had gone to that much trouble to get all these people here, he might as well give her another chance. So when you add 15 to 10, how much do you get, he asked. And she said, 40. Well, again, a loud groan came from the audience. And once again they shouted, give her a chance, give her another chance, please. He did not have much confidence, but did not want to get 80,000 blondes mad at him, so he thought, why not? So he asked her, what are 2 plus 2? And the blonde smiled and said, 4. And the audience shouted, give her another chance, give her another chance.
There you go! Ding dong! We're done, and thank you, Joe. Take us home.
Trails to you.